Hey, and welcome back to the next segment in our Guitar 101 course. Today we are just going to be focusing on the fretboard in terms of moving your hand. That is, hand positions. What are hand positions? Why should we understand them as guitarists? And why, in my opinion, position 5 is, after you learn position 1, the next position that you ought to learn as a guitarist. So stay tuned. So I always like to just highlight briefly all the guitars that I use for my various videos in this course are all entry level, all sub $500 guitars. This is a unusual brand, Michael Kelly. I haven't done any videos on them yet, but I am actually a big fan of theirs as a brand, and they offer some very nice instruments at very affordable prices. They are not an instantly recognizable brand, though, and a lot of people don't really know about them. They might have heard the name or seen them or whatever, but I'm going to do a video series on them to demystify and so forth. This specific one is a 1963. A lot of the Fender oriented offerings tend to have like years as the model number, and so this is a 1963. It is a really cool, it's got the figured flame maple top, and it has actually a lot of things that you would not expect on a sub $500 guitar, such as an ebony fretboard. It has the humbucker single with the coil split option, very unusual, and it has locking tuners and some, this nice wood binding, paint, really beautiful, excellent, this beautiful maroon on the back and so forth. And so it's really a much nicer guitar than you would expect in this price range, especially for being an off-brand that you might not have heard of before. This, by the way, is using position 5, which we're going to look at in this lesson, because position 5, in my opinion, after you've gotten the basics down in position 1, position 5 is your next target for a number of reasons, which we'll talk about in just a moment. So just some noodling around on position 5 with no slides or anything. That's all just position 5. So we will be taking a look at this and seeing why is position 5 such an important position for guitarists, especially for getting into it and really becoming more natural with your playing, being able to improvise and get these nice long bends and stuff. Why is position 5? Why don't we just go 1, 2, 3, 4 and work up? Why position 5? So position 5, now the other positions are absolutely helpful, and this is just getting our feet wet. As I move forward, I will do videos on the other positions and the keys that they are best for playing. But for right now, in this video, hand position, just looking at what is the terminology. Hand position merely refers to, it usually will say a number, 1st position, 5th position, 8th position, and that is just referring to your first finger on your fretting hand, which fret number it is at. So if you are playing open, this is in 1st position. Now you can always hit open notes. That's one of the really tonally cool things about a guitar. If you do it right now, if you hit an open note and you don't mean to, it can sound really bad. But as you grow into it, this is part of the journey in terms of really getting familiar with guitar, is knowing what keys you are most comfortable in playing, and when you're outside of your comfort zone, how to deal with that. That's getting down the road. Those are things that you develop and learn as you go. But again, just basic foundation. If you see something referring to a hand position and it says 3rd position, that means you take your first finger, you start at 3, and you go 1 fret up each. Okay, so that's just what we mean by hand positions. And as I mentioned, different hand positions, because of what the notes are, your first finger is very, very important, because particularly as you develop, this is going to become your primary bar finger, in that you can fret, an entire fret, with just your one finger. It's basically like a capo that you can just slide around. That's we'll talk about bars near the end of the 101 course, but being able to do that, so your position is important for your mind to connect what this first finger's on and what you can do as a result coming off of that finger. Okay, so it is very important to understand. Now, you don't have to overthinking side rant time. Overthinking, and this is just advice to, up and coming musicians. Whenever I have failed, musically speaking, right, singing or playing, whenever I have facepalm failed, whenever I've messed up my playing, it is 99% of the time because I was thinking about what I was doing rather than just playing the music. Little side rant that the thinking is important and having these lessons and seeing grids and stuff, but what matters in terms of your development and being able to play your instrument, particularly in live settings. It's one thing to sit in your studio and do it 20 times until you get a good take, but doing it in a live setting, you don't get retakes. You got to just roll with it, right? And that kind of naturalness comes with time, with practice, and with learning your spots that you are most comfortable with. And then as you develop those spots, then you can develop outside of your comfort zone and continue to explore. But for me and for many guitarists, other than first position, which is where you want to start and get your feet wet, the next thing to learn is fifth position. Now, why fifth position? Why should we care about fifth position? Okay, for one, you have, other than the 4 that goes up to your B, right? Other than that, you have, with those, you are very close to ringing true to your open notes, right? As in this 5 here is the open on the next string going up, right? So the reality is that you are playing in tune in the sense that you're conceptually very similar to what's going on up here, right? These notes line up in a very similar fashion to what they line up on the open strings. So that's part of it, right? Those fives are very important on here. That's tuning up on your 5s, other than that one quirky 4, tuning up on those 5s and being able to slide up. That's a tremendously cool sound, doing a slide to the next. Anyway, sliding up to your next open string, that sort of thing, that gives you some really cool sounds that are not entirely unique to guitar, but pretty close to unique to guitar. Particularly electric guitar, getting that double ringing note where you're sliding into it, that's so cool. Cool stuff. So the 5s are very important for your development, right? And so as you work into position 1 to position 5, you will learn how to bridge and move up, which notes to slide on, and so forth. And that mainly comes with practice and just, just knowing over time how to move back and forth. But conceptually speaking, position 1 and position 5 are juggernauts of learning guitar and learning it to be natural. So position 5 gives you a lot of really great options. Another reason to learn position 5 next is that the sweet spot of playing the guitar is pretty much about between frets 5 and 12. This area of the neck right here gives you incredible tones, coupled with the ability to do longer bends. Easier bends and note and so forth, you can get a lot of great stuff happening. It's a lot harder the closer you get to the head, the closer you get to the nut here, it is going to be harder and harder to bend. And so it's very hard to bend on your first fret. You can do some with the second fret, but bending the first is very, very hard. Choose your fingers up. Bending on the fifth, and if you're, again, 5, and then you're counting up, so 5, 6, 7, your middle, your middle's going to be on the 6, your third finger's going to be on the 7, and the, you know, the slides, the moves, all the bends, all of the stuff that really gives flavor to guitar is much easier to play right here. Now, you get in over 12 into the second octave. That stuff is great, but generally speaking, only for flavoring. You don't want to hang out in here too much because it can become shrill. And so usually you will find guitarists, unless you're playing something like incredibly heavy metal and, you know, you're doing a lot of shredding arpeggios and stuff up here, generally speaking, working above the 12, which the 12 is your octave, that double dot, very, very important. That's your octave there, so you're starting over in terms of what notes you're accessing, and you get some great solo sounds up there, but it is very high and it can become shrill very quickly. And so the sweet spot is like right in here, where you're moving up here and you're moving down, you're moving into the higher and lower tones for flavor, but generally speaking, the real sweet I'm just getting carried away because it's very pleasant to play here for many reasons that we've been talking about. And as you get into it, you'll see, you know, this makes a lot of sense. And we're about to look at the actual diagram and talk about what is going on, starting with 5th position, fret 5, and moving up. And so we're going to look at the diagram just like we did previously with the open diagram, but now in 5th position. And I'm also going to introduce you to one of your new best friends, and that is the A minor pentatonic scale, played at the 5th position, which is super simple. Like, you know, it can be a little daunting at first, but once you got the pattern in your mind, this is a great place to practice and get comfortable with doing runs and stuff, and we'll talk about that in just a minute as well. Alright, so here is our 5th position diagram, and so you have, of course, the row on the column on the left are your open notes, E, A, D, G, B, and high E. Okay, but then we are looking at starting with if we start at the low E, on the 5th fret, this is going to be A. Alright, and so if we go up with 5 frets on each, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9 being your extra 5th one going out. These are all your notes. Now again, don't get overwhelmed right now. At this point, we're just looking at its orientation. Okay, don't get too overwhelmed. But if you need to take a screenshot of this, I can upload the images and so forth on the YouTube channel, on the video link, and that sort of thing. But these are all your notes laid out. Okay, now the next thing we're going to look at is the A minor pentatonic scale. And the reason here is you can sound very quickly, very musical on the 5th position playing the A minor pentatonic. But again, this 5th position is really, really excellent stuff. It's in this sweet spot It's just a great spot to play. It's really really excellent, and again I say that that this is probably the second position that you should learn, and it will really make you feel a lot more confident very quickly. You will find yourself playing with much more confidence, and I know this is just mental perception, but I understand that just hanging around in first position gives off a newbie vibe. It does. It's true. And getting like easy transposed music, like I just did a video on a Santana PRS SE that I've got, and I was talking about Santana, and there are like, for if you want to learn Santana, there are easy Santana books that everything has been transposed primarily up into that first position. The reality, though, is Santana doesn't really play up there. He plays down here in this sweet spot because you get much better bends. You get much better bends and that sort of thing up here than playing in first position. And so first position can get frustrating. First position is most important in terms of getting the basics, getting the foundations, and then the cowboy chords, which you go and you look up the chord videos, we talk about that, the first position chords. Rhythm work is not about being fancy, it's about being on time, and it's about having the right chord structure. And generally speaking, rhythm workers primarily will hang out in the first and second position up there, partially because of the tones and so forth, that rhythm work works better lower than higher. Generally speaking, the higher you get, the more you're pushing in the mix towards the forefront and you're pushing into lead territory. So rhythm workers tend to work up here. But if you're particularly wanting to learn lead and learn improv and slides and bends and all that kind of stuff, then position 5 is where you will really start to feel confident, where you're going to start making these sounds and go, this is what I was looking for, this is what I wanted, right? That you just and just playing for somebody else, like once you get confident enough to either play for family, friends, or go to an open mic night or something, coming out and playing primarily up here is going to make you feel so much more confident than just sticking up here. And so there's lots of reasons that fifth position is great. All right, so in just apart from all the things we've said about fifth position being really great for guitar playing, this right here, now I will do a whole lesson on pentatonics and go more in depth as to what are we talking about with pentatonics. Don't worry about all of that right now. Okay, for right now, this is a great entry point into particularly learning to do runs and that sort of thing. This is a reduced scale. It is pentatonic because it has 5 notes in the scale instead of 7, so it repeats on the 6th rather than the 8th. It drops 2 notes. And for whatever reason, you have to get into music theory to explain why exactly, but the reality is that by dropping those 2 notes, it makes it sound more musical. It is the difference between that sounds like a scale, that sounds more like music. It is still a scale. They are both scales, but the actual, I'm going back and forth between the minor and the minor pentatonic. They sound, the pentatonic just sounds more musical for some reason. Now, the awesome thing is that particularly as you start learning scales, which we're also going to be doing a video on scales and their importance in your development, but when you know that these are also in bounds in terms of, still good notes, you can use them as what's called passing notes, which is you're not hanging on the note, you're just driving through it on a run. You're going somewhere else, right? But the pentatonic, now part of the reason why this is so great to learn is look how simple it is. This would be the first position of a pentatonic, where your root note is going to be, in this case, A on the 5th fret of the low E string, and it just goes, if you count that as 1, 1, then 4, the next string 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3. You got that nice little box there, and then 1, 4, 1, 4. So very, very simple. There's actually two shapes involved, the 1, 4 and the 1, 3. Very, very simple, and you don't have to move around at all. If I continue to play, if I go back to the full A minor, I have to move over here, or I have to go over here. I have to slide one way or the other to continue that. And so, but with the pentatonic, that note is eliminated, and now you just have simple stuff. And this is also looking at, if you do a blues, 12-bar blues, you're going to start with your root note, right? You start with your root, and then it's going to go up to the 4, which, if you are dealing with the bottom 4 strings, your 1 and your 4 are gonna, your 4 is gonna be right on top of it. Right, so you got your 4 right on top of it, and then your 5 is the next one out, right? 1, 4, 5. And so it's very easy to do blues on this, you know, and there is what's called the blues scale, which adds this extra note right there. So you have 3 notes next to each other, adds a little flavor. We're not quite there yet, but the blues scale is built on the pentatonic scale. And again, the pentatonic scale just gives you a little bit more musical sound to your scales, and it reduces it in just the right way. We'll just put it that way. And so learning this will, once you've unlocked that, then of course, this is the great thing with guitar, you can move up, you can move down, right? So if I move up to, so A sharp / B flat, I mostly think of it as B flat, and then B. So if we wanted to play the B minor pentatonic, same exact thing, just 2 frets up. Same exact shape. So once you've unlocked this, and again, this is the place I think to start, partially because with A minor is the relative minor of C. So you're building on the same foundations. If you want to come down and play some notes up closer to the head, then you play the same notes that were in bounds with the C major scale that we already were looking at with the first position. So this combines what you've already learned in first position, now gives you extra dimension and so forth. And so it is a great scale, it is a great shape to learn, it's very basic, and it will really quickly level up your guitar playing, because you know, if you just keep doing runs up and down, and then you improv into it, just allow yourself to go, you know, get a backing track. There's lots of A minor backing tracks. I've got right now a blues in B jam track, but you know, again, that would just be moving up to 7th position, but same basic idea, you're just moving up 2 frets. And so 5th position is a great place to go to that second level after you are confident enough in first position, you know what's up, but you really want to move on. You want to start adding more flavor and development, especially into your lead and improvisational skills and that sort of thing. 5th position and the A minor pentatonic scale is brilliant place to really, begin to get more natural and feel just more confident in your playing. As always, if you've enjoyed my content, please like and subscribe. Love to hear from you guys, and just really enjoying the community developing around this channel. So you all have a wonderful day.